Good morning. Oh, what a beautiful morning. It is so lovely to see you this morning. My name is Reverend Kylie Renner, and on behalf of the entire One Spiritual Center community, I just want to welcome you here today. And I have to say it's joyous to see so many smiles this morning. All of us up here have been vaccinated, so we're ready to rock and roll. Yay. But also absolutely no judgment. If you would like to continue to wear a mask, you are welcome to. We will not say anything to you. I'm just so grateful to be here this morning with all of you. And I have to tell you something funny. So a few weeks ago, I shared that I'm really excited that I'm starting school again. So I'm going back to school to do an architectural draftsperson program, and I'm nervous and excited and all of those things, and school's about to start tomorrow, and I'm just super thrilled and also just nervous, right? It's been a long time since I've been in school, and I'm worried about the time it's going to take and whether I have what it takes, whatever my mind is doing. And so, of course, last week, I have not even started school. And in the midst of my turmoil, I get an email from the school telling me I have unsatisfactory academic progress. And I was like, what? I haven't even started yet. And it was one of those moments where it was like, oh, I'm taking myself far too seriously here. Like spirit and life and love want me to be so different in this than I have ever been in school before. And so I'm so grateful for that email, because I was like, you have got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me. So this morning's all about all of the things we can control and all of the things we can't, and how we live with all of that, especially in such interesting times. And I'm just grateful to be in this space with you today. Unsatisfactory academic progress and all. So thank you for being here this morning. Can you guys hear me out there? No. Yeah. I've gotten some people looking like they don't quite able to hear. So we're going to check on that. But as we prepare the way for that, we're going to do some prayer. Let's see. It was on. We checked that earlier. Unsatisfactory academic progress. All right, so we're just going to breathe into this morning, into this opportunity to be present with everything that is shifting and changing inside of us, and all of the new opportunities that are emerging. And I just recognize the power and the presence of the One right here and right now. As we open ourselves to give and receive absolutely that which is necessary right here and now. And I just know that the wisdom that is inside of us knows how to be present here in exactly the right way. And so we let that wisdom guide us today, so that we may hear and feel and see and know exactly that which we need to. So I just let this day unfold. And I let it be. And so it is.
I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind
really awesome not to have to figure out how to take my mask on and off every time I get standing back up. Whew, this is exciting this morning. We know what we're doing. All right. No, maybe not. All right. So I've chosen a poem by Mark Nepo to guide us into our meditation this morning. It's entitled Understory. I've been watching stars rely on the darkness they resist, and fish struggle with and against the current, and hawks glide faster when their wings don't move. Still, I keep retelling what happens till it comes out the way I want. We try so hard to be the main character when it is our point of view that keeps us from the truth. The sun has its story that no curtain can stop. It's true. The only way beyond the self is through it. The only way to listen to what can never be said is to quiet our need to steer the plot. When jarred by life, we might unravel the story we tell ourselves and discover the story we are in, the one that keeps telling us. And so we're going to just allow the meditation to move us to the story that's telling us instead of the story we're telling. And we're going to let the meditation move us today.
That was a tune by John Bartlett called Truth Puts Its Shoes On. I'm trying to get him to write the Barefoot Truth as a prequel to that. Here's a tune arranged by our good friend Michael Anthony, and I would pronounce the name of it if I could do it correctly, but I'm not going to try. So. One, it starts with the coda. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Good morning again. I have to tell you that I wasn't thinking it was going to be so strange to not be wearing a mask. Like I forgot what to do with my face. Like, oh, why? It's been a long year. Really, really long. Over a year now. So I know some of you are aware that things have been really, really interesting and moving really quickly around here. We've got so much going on just in this tiny household that we have here with me starting school next week, and we're about to start building in the back, and we do all of that ourselves as well as run, several other businesses, and we're getting ready because Zephyr is curating a furniture show in New York City, and we finalized the dates this week, so we'll be there and doing all of that all at the same time. And it starts at some point to feel a little out of control. So one of the quotes I always have to remember in the midst of all of that is a quote by Mario Andretti, and he said, "If everything seems under control, you're not going fast enough." And I think that's really true, especially on a spiritual level, that when we start to feel like everything's under control, it means that we're not pushing the boundaries far enough, that we're not really pushing up against the edge. And sure, we like to feel secure, and that's part of what we need to find is a sense of security. But we can't do that in the midst of not being really willing to also push the boundary, making sure we're going fast enough, making sure we're pushing ourselves to the edges of where we've been before. And so I came across some symptoms that we might be going too slow this week. One is that you think you have everything under control. The other is you think you know where you're going. Also, you think everyone likes you. And the last one, you think control is better than compassion. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that later, but especially self-compassion, especially when we're butting up against the edges of where we've been before and where we're going, and where we're finding our desire to control things and where we're having to bust through that. So it's so interesting. We all have different ways we do this, and some of them are more overt than others, right? Some of our ways of trying to control things look different. But one of the ways in which I think that some of us have approached our need to control is the way a lion tamer does. And so I actually was following the news story this week about the tiger loosed in Houston. Did you guys see that? And I was remembering this allegory about the lion tamer, because what's so interesting about lion tamers, right, is that even though they have all of this stuff going on inside of them, they try never to show it. Because if they show it, then they lose control. And so there's this way in which a lot of us, especially in this culture, have been taught that that's how we have to be, right? Like that we have to pretend that there's nothing going on, that we actually create this space in which we put this barrier so that it feels like we're safe. And it feels like life can't get to us, the lion can't get to us, because we've proven that we are not going to show the lion what's really going on with us. And on a spiritual level, we can see that operating, especially when we have like upheaval going on. How often in society and in our culture, we are taught that we're not supposed to let people know. In fact, we were talking about that last week amongst the band, and talking about someone who really taught me about approaching this from a different perspective. And so some of you will remember many years ago, we had a member of our community named Sama who had been diagnosed with cancer. And she has since lifted off into her next expression. But at the time, when the diagnosis happened, she was very clear that this was not something she was going to do alone. She flat out said, I want everyone to be praying for me. I want everyone to know what's going on with me. But what I want them to know about me in this experience is that I want them to send me the sweetest, kindest, most loving thing they could ever experience for themselves. And they want them to send that to me. And so it was like this overflowing of how we could do this really differently, how we could really do this kind of idea of how it is we want to experience whatever's going on. We don't have to be the lion tamer trying to control it in that way, that we can actually open ourselves to kind of love and support that is available let down that guard that says the way that I continue to feel safe is to tame and control. And so I think about this sometimes, especially in my own resistance to being willing to lose that kind of illusion of safety. So I actually didn't write down who this was. I think it's Hugh Prather. He said the most basic fear of all of us is of losing safety, because safety is fundamental to our survival. This fear will instinctively be triggered at the first sign of danger or insecurity, and the old brain or the limbic system is inherently wired that way. This particular fear will also be triggered when we experience pain or discomfort. But in most cases, even when this fear is triggered, there is no real danger to us. In fact, our fears are largely imaginary. That the plane will crash, that we will be criticized, that we're doing it wrong. Yet, until we see this dimension of fear with clarity, we will continue to live with a sense of constriction that can seem daunting. Once we become familiar with our insecurities, a central component of spiritual life is recognizing that practice is not about ensuring that we feel secure or comfortable. It's not that we won't feel these things when we practice. Rather, it's that we are also bound to sometimes feel very uncomfortable and insecure, particularly when exploring and working with our dark emotions and unhealed pain. And this is the truth of it, right? Like that even when we feel like what we're doing is protecting us, that it's keeping us safe, it never really can. And spirit and those unhealed places in us that want our attention will always find a way to get to the surface. And so the idea here then is to become really comfortable with the fact that we will have that urge to find safety in the midst of our discomfort, but that isn't in fact what spirit really wants from us, especially when we're doing the deeper spiritual work that we're called to do right now. Like that we don't let our sense of safety become what we're so attached to. And so that's why I loved that poem that I shared to start the meditation with you this morning. And this idea that we get so attached to the story that we're going to tell, right? Until it looks the particular way, right? That's all about control. And what Mark Nepo is talking about is instead to get in touch with the story that's trying to tell us. And there's something so much deeper and more powerful about that experience that is what I'm going to call surrender today. So what's interesting about surrender is our culture has all kinds of negative connotations around that because it generally means, waving the flag and giving up. But there's something much deeper about what that concept really is. That concept of letting go of my need to tell the story in my way and letting the story tell me. That's a different relationship with God, right there. That's a different relationship with the One. That's a different level of trust. That's a different level of willingness. It's a different level of understanding that there's something deeper going on. And it's a level in which we find when we're willing to open more fully. So I have to tell you that for years, since I first heard the song on the radio, I've been laughing about the lyric, Jesus, take the wheel. Okay, if you don't know, it's a country song, and it basically says, Jesus, you're in charge, right? Like, take the wheel of the car. And we joke about it around here. It's one of those like, I took it as far as I can. Jesus, take the wheel. But I really think that there's something interesting about that moment or that willingness to have that relationship, right? And while that's not my particular flavor, there's something really beautiful about a willingness to allow that relationship to be in which we realize that we can take things only so far. And that then we have to be willing to let something else take over. We have to be willing to let a bigger vision unfold. We have to be willing to let something else move So there's this story that I always remember because it's my stepdad's favorite. It's from the book Illusions by Richard Bach. And it's a story about a village of creatures that lived at the bottom of a great crystal river. And the current swept all over them, young and old, rich and poor, good and evil, the current going on its own way, knowing only its own crystal self. And each creature in its own manner clung tightly to the twigs and rocks on the river bottom because clinging was their way of life. And resisting the current was what they had learned from birth. But one creature said at last, "I'm tired of all this clinging. Though I can't not see it with my eyes, I trust that the current knows where it's going, and I shall let go and let it take me where it will. Clinging, I shall die here of boredom." So the other creatures laughed and said, "Fool, let go, and the current you worship will throw you tumbled and smashed against the rocks, and you will die quicker than boredom." But he didn't want to heed them, and so he took a breath and let go, and at once was tumbled and smashed by the current across the rocks. Yet, in time, as the creature refused to cling again, the current lifted him free from the bottom, and he was bruised and hurt no more. And the creatures downstream, to whom he was a stranger, cried, "See, a miracle, a creature like ourselves, yet he flies. See the Messiah come to save us all." And the one carried in the current said, "I am no more the Messiah than you. The river delights to lift us free if only we dare to let go. Our true work is this voyage, this adventure." But they cried more, "Savior," all the while clinging to the rocks. And when they looked again, he was gone. And they were left alone making legends of a Savior. So this story is so powerful on a lot of different levels, but on the level of what does it feel like to stop clinging and to let that surrender happen. There's this way in which we transcend a lot of the things that have held us back in the past, because we're no longer limited in this way that we were by all of the ways that we had to cling and constrain ourselves in order to make ourselves feel safe or comfortable or liked or that we knew where we were going or that things were under control. And I don't know about you, but it never really worked, right? Even though I could momentarily feel like I knew what was going on briefly, it never really lasted. And so there's this sense in which we could continue to cling to that, trying to make it all make sense on this level of where we've been, what we think is possible, or we could do this other thing that the creature who no longer was willing to cling leads us to, right? That we sure will get tumbled about. In fact, we're going to get tumbled about anyway, right? All of us. But if instead of that leading us to clinging more deeply or strongly or trying to find even more barriers that make us feel even more safe and more secure in what we're uncomfortable with, if instead we start to allow ourselves to let that lift us into something else, into this bigger story that wants to be told, into this way in which we're able to access a sense of compassion that is not only big enough to contain those around us, but it is big enough to contain ourselves. And so one of the interesting things that I've been thinking about is this idea that our sense of control gets in the way of our compassion. Because if we're so focused on making ourselves feel safe, we make a lot of choices and we have a lot of ideas about the world that keep our hearts from actually being open to what's real. And we create a lot of barriers between ourselves and other people and life and ourselves. So there's this old story about a young man who was visiting an abbot in a monastery. And the young man told the monk, or the abbot, that he would actually really like to become a monk, but said that he hadn't heard anything in life, learned anything in life. The only thing that he had learned was that his dad had taught him how to play chess, which he said didn't really lead him to enlightenment, and he had actually learned that games are a sin, so he didn't think that was going to lead him anywhere. And the abbot said, well, that may be a sin, but they can be a diversion. And who knows, in this monastery, we may need a little of both. And so the abbot asked for a chessboard and sent for a monk and told him to play the young man. But before the game began, he added, although we need diversion, we cannot allow everyone to play chess the whole time. So we only have the best players here. If our monk loses, he will leave the monastery and his place will be yours. So the abbot was serious, and the young man knew he was playing for his life. And he broke into a cold sweat, and the chessboard became the center of the world. And the monk began badly, and the young man attacked. And when he saw the saintly look on the other man's face at that moment, he began to play badly on purpose. After all, he would rather lose. A monk is far more useful to the world. And suddenly the abbot threw the chessboard to the floor. And this is what he said: you have learned far more than what was taught you. You concentrated yourself enough to win, but were capable of fighting for that which you desire. But then you had compassion and were willing to make a sacrifice in the name of a noble cause. Welcome. Because the secret of life is to know how to balance discipline with compassion. And I feel like there's something so true about that, like that moment, right, where we take it as far as we can take it, and then we let that other thing take over. And that's where compassion, that's where surrender, where makes us available to this higher vision that's trying to happen, where we're not just keeping on telling the story until it's the way we want it, and we're letting the story tell us. And it leads us places we weren't expecting, right? It opens strange doors. It makes us incredibly uncomfortable. But I have to tell you that any imagined safety was not as powerful as that which was on the other side of it, which is not as available to us because we were unwilling to allow ourselves to surrender to a bigger place inside of us that didn't need us to control it. And I just feel like it's so important to be intentional about this right now as we figure out how to move back into the world, because I can feel the desire to control in me come up, especially when all of these things that used to feel familiar feel strange again. And there's this sense in, how do I want to bring compassion in a bigger way into my world? How do I want to bring a sense of recognizing that Spirit knows what it is doing in a bigger way into my world? How can I do this whole thing differently? And there's such a space of openness there. And so I'm just going to invite us into that practice, especially when we start to feel ourselves get into that clinging place, right? That we open ourselves to become more available to this bigger story that's not about the story that says that we lose control and that's the end of it. It's instead the story that says we lose control and that's the beginning of it. We lose control and that's where the story really starts. We lose our sense of control, our small selves, and we find our deeper connection. And then, like I've been sharing, we don't have to try so hard. It just starts to happen in a different way. And so I'm going to invite the band to come on up, because we're going to anchor into prayer this morning, singing into a prayer, making ourselves available to this sense in which maybe the way we've tried to control things in the past isn't really going to serve us anymore, and see if even just for a moment we're able to open to what's possible on the other side of that. So I'm going to ask you to please join me as we sing into our prayer.
Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. Heals us, sustains us, sets us free.
So our prayer of love this morning is a prayer of opening to the freedom of no longer needing to control. As we allow ourselves to open to a space that is beyond that, beyond the need to control, beyond the illusion of control, as we allow ourselves truly the freedom of recognizing that there is a bigger story that is being told, that will never fit in our small idea of ourselves or the story we could tell. And we allow ourselves to be told, to have that story be told through us, through our willingness to let go. And as we let go of outcome, as we let go into even the places that feel uncomfortable and unknown, I just recognize that Spirit knows exactly how to show up. And that it is in that surrender that we open ourselves to the peace and the power that sent us here, that is always seeking to make itself known more deeply through us. And so truly we recognize that there is more on the other side of any sense of safety or security that we could cling to than we could ever imagine. And we allow our safety to be found in the one itself. We let our wholeness guide us into that deeper experience. And I just know that truly there's absolutely no limit to this flow, this freedom. And I just let it move. I let go into it. And I let it be. And so it is.
Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, sets us free.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Ah, what a joy. So, thank you for your continued love and support through all of this. Thank you for your contributions. There are baskets hanging in the trees if you'd like to make a contribution here in person, as well as there's a spot on our website, onespiritualcenter.org, if you're watching us online, where you can make a donation. Thank you for all of that. Reminding everyone that we will be back next month, so June, at Roadrunner Food Bank on the 4th Saturday, volunteering together, and we're excited about getting to do that again. And I will keep you updated around whatever they're doing for their protocols. So I think assume that we'll probably be wearing masks, though. I'm just assuming. So let's see. I think that we are ready to sing. Please join me.
One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's give thanks to the Lord and we can feel alright. People, get ready for the train a-coming. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith, hear that diesel humming. Don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's give thanks to the Lord and we can feel alright. People, get ready for the train to Jordan, picking up passengers from coast to coast. Faith is the key, open the doors and board 'em. There's room for all that love them. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's give thanks to the Lord and we can feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright.
We have one last blessing to sing to one another.
Go forth and walk in beauty and know that we are one.